Daddy, why is she and her baby sleeping there? 6 innocent words spoken by a 6-year-old girl on Christmas Eve, words that would change 4 lives forever. The air that night sliced like glass, the kind of Minnesota cold that burns before it numbs. Daniel Foster tucked his scarf closer and held his daughter Grace S. mittened hand as they crossed the nearly empty parking lot. Their breath rose like ghosts under the orange streetlights. He had promised her hot chocolate after finishing last-minute errands, an easy Christmas Eve ritual meant to distract from the ache that still lingered in both of them every December. They were almost to the car when Grace stopped. Her little voice trembled. "Daddy, look." Daniel turned and froze. In a recessed corner beside the garage entrance sat a young woman, no more than 24, wrapped in a threadbare blanket. Her arms curved protectively around a tiny bundle. The cardboard sign at her feet read, "Please help. Just trying to keep my baby warm." The baby stirred, a faint cry escaping into the bitter air. Daniel's throat closed. How do you explain homelessness to a child who still believes in Santa Claus? Grace squeezed his hand tighter. "The baby's cold, Daddy. We have to do something." He knelt beside her, knees hitting salted concrete. "Sometimes, sweetheart," he began carefully, "people go through very hard times. But it's Christmas Eve," she interrupted, eyes wide and glistening. "Nobody should be cold on Christmas Eve." He looked back at the woman. Her lips were blue, her face pale and raw from wind. Fear flickered in her eyes when he approached, the way it does in anyone who's been hurt too many times. "Excuse me?" he said softly, hands visible. "I'm not here to bother you. My daughter and we just wanted to check if you're all right." Tears slid silently down her cheeks. "We're fine," she whispered, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her. The baby whimpered again, louder this time. "What's your name?" he asked, lowering himself to sit on the frozen ground beside her, something few people ever did. She hesitated, then, "Melissa. This is Oliver." "Hi, Melissa. I'm Daniel. That's my daughter, Grace." Grace waved shyly. "He's so little." 8 months, Melissa said, clutching the child closer. "He just learned to crawl. Not that he has anywhere to go now." The words hit Daniel like a blow. He remembered Grace at that age, Catherine laughing, baby-proofing every outlet. Catherine, who'd been gone 3 years now. The emptiness beside him was still loud. Grace tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, can't they come home with us?" He hesitated. Every reasonable instinct screamed no. You don't bring strangers home, especially with a child. But then he looked at the baby's red cheeks, at the despair hollowing Melissa's eyes, and at Grace's small face tilted upward, believing utterly in her father's goodness. And Catherine's voice whispered in his memory, "If you can help, you do." He exhaled a cloud of breath that carried his decision. "We have a warm house 20 minutes away. A guest room, food, heat, please, just for tonight." Melissa shook her head. "You don't know me. I could be dangerous. You're a mother trying to keep her baby warm. That's all I need to know." The wall she'd built cracked. A sob escaped before she could stop it. "I never thought I'd be here," she whispered. 6 months ago, I had a job at a grocery store, a tiny apartment. Then Oliver came early, medical bills, missed work, and then nothing. No family, no help. I just wanted him to be warm tonight." Grace stepped forward and rested her little hand on Melissa's arm. "We have lots of warm at our house, and Daddy makes the best hot chocolate with marshmallows." Melissa's smile broke through the tears, fragile, astonished. "Okay," she breathed. Daniel helped her up, grabbed the worn backpack that contained her whole life, and led them to his car. When the heater kicked on, Melissa closed her eyes as if warmth itself were a prayer being answered. Grace cooed at the baby until Oliver gave her the tiniest, gummy smile, and Daniel felt something stir inside him, a small, forgotten flicker of peace. At home, the smell of pine and cinnamon greeted them. The Christmas tree glowed quietly in the corner. Melissa stood in the entryway, uncertain, clutching Oliver as if someone might snatch him away. "The guest room's upstairs," Daniel said. "Bathroom's across the hall. Take your time. I'll start dinner." "You've done enough," she murmured. "You can thank me by getting warm." Grace took her hand like a tiny hostess. "Come on, you can see the Christmas lights from the window." When their voices faded up the stairs, Daniel leaned against the counter, heart thudding. What would Catherine think? He already knew. She'd be proud, and maybe a little amused that it had taken him so long to listen to the part of himself she'd always loved most. An hour later, Melissa appeared, clean, hair brushed, Oliver in fresh clothes. She looked younger, almost like the girl she must have been before life collapsed. They ate soup and grilled cheese, simple but hot, and she smiled like it was a feast. "I'm 23, she said quietly. "Feels like 50 some days." Daniel nodded. "Grace was born early, too. We spent 2 weeks in NICU. I remember that fear." Melissa's eyes filled. "That's when everything started falling apart for me. The bills, the stress, and his father left. Said he wasn't ready. I wasn't ready either, but here we are." Grace spoke up softly. "My mommy's in heaven. She went there when I was 3. Silence, heavy but gentle, settled around them. "I'm so sorry," Melissa whispered. Daniel managed a small smile. "We're learning how to be okay." After dinner, while Melissa bathed Oliver, Grace whispered in the kitchen, "Daddy, we should give them presents." He smiled sadly. "What do you have in mind?" "My toys Oliver could have. And that pink scarf Aunt Linda gave me. Melissa would look pretty in it. It's what Mommy would do." He swallowed hard. "Yes, sweetheart. Exactly what Mommy would do." Later that night, Daniel opened the closet and stared at Catherine's winter coat. Elegant, barely worn. She'd joked it was too fancy for real life. He touched the fabric, remembering her laugh. Then he wrapped it with a ribbon, along with some gift cards and a photography book he'd never used, and placed everything under the tree. Christmas morning dawned bright and white. Grace burst into Melissa's room shouting, "Santa came! He knew you were here!" Oliver squealed, waving his chubby hands. Melissa's face crumpled with disbelief. "Grace, sweetheart, we couldn't—" "Please," Daniel said softly. "It's Christmas." Tears streamed as she unwrapped the coat. "This is too much. It's been hanging there 3 years," he said. "It needs to be worn, needs a life." She understood he wasn't just talking about the coat. That day unfolded like a page from the life Daniel thought he'd lost forever. Pancakes shaped like snowmen, laughter spilling across the kitchen, Oliver banging spoons like cymbals. For the first time since Catherine's death, the house felt alive. When night fell, Melissa joined Daniel on the porch, both wrapped in blankets, watching snow drift through the lamplight. "Why did you help us?" she asked. He took a long breath. "When Catherine died, I wanted to disappear. The only thing that kept me moving was Grace, and strangers who showed up. People who brought food, who let me cry. They reminded me I wasn't alone. Someone told me once that kindness is like energy. It can't be created or destroyed, only transferred. Tonight I just passed along what was given to me." Melissa's voice cracked. "I was going to give up, not on Oliver, never on him, but on myself. I thought maybe I could find a family to take him, someone better." "You're his better," Daniel said. "You're his mother. That makes you everything." Snow fell thicker, softening the world. "There's an opening at my company," he added. "Customer service. Not glamorous, but steady pay, benefits, daycare assistance. You'd have to interview, but I could put in a word." She stared at him, stunned. "You'd do that?" He smiled faintly. Catherine always said the best way to help someone is to help them help themselves. Melissa nodded, tears glimmering. Then yes, I'll try. I want it all. A job, a home, a future for Oliver. Then let's make it happen. 3 weeks passed in a blur of healing. Melissa got the job, not as charity, but because she was capable. Her first paycheck went to a deposit on a small apartment 10 minutes away. Daniel and Grace helped her move in. Grace insisted the emptiness meant, it's ready to be filled with good stuff. And it was, slowly, with secondhand furniture, borrowed dishes, laughter, and hope. Sunday dinners became tradition. Grace and Oliver shared crayons and giggles. Months turned into a year. Melissa earned a promotion. Oliver learned to walk in Daniel's living room while everyone cheered like it was the Olympics. Grace began calling Melissa Aunt Mel without anyone suggesting it. At a summer soccer game, Oliver tumbled, chasing a butterfly. Daniel scooped him up instinctively, murmuring comfort. When he looked up, Melissa was watching, something unspoken in her eyes. "You're his person," she said. "He looks for you when he's scared." "Is that okay?" She smiled through tears. "It's everything." Years flowed like pages turning. Grace became a radiant teenager who organized coat drives and volunteered at shelters, ripples of one cold Christmas Eve echoing outward. One December morning, she bounded into the kitchen. "You know what day it is, Dad?" 10 years since we met Aunt Mel and Oliver." Daniel blinked. 10 years? Oliver, now 10, grinned from the doorway. "We should celebrate." Melissa, carrying her camera bag, nodded. "Let's go back, to the parking garage." They did. The alcove was clean now, a small plaque on the wall reading, "Sometimes angels wear winter coats and speak in 6-year-old voices." "I don't really remember it," Oliver admitted, tracing the plaque. "But I know the story. The night Grace and Uncle Dee saved us." Melissa smiled gently. "No, sweetheart, the night we saved each other." Grace's high school graduation came with all the pomp and pride a single father could hold. Standing at the podium, valedictorian sash gleaming, she began her speech. 18 years ago, my dad lost my mom and became a single father. He could have closed himself off. Instead, 12 years ago, he taught me the most important lesson of my life. Her gaze found him, Melissa, and Oliver in the crowd. When I was 6, I asked, "Daddy, why is she and her baby sleeping there?" His answer wasn't words. It was action. He showed me that compassion isn't a feeling. It's a choice. A choice to see people. To act when it's easier to walk away. To expand what we call family. Melissa's hand slipped into Daniel's. "That Christmas Eve, we didn't just bring 2 people home," Grace continued, voice steady but trembling with emotion. "We discovered that family isn't about blood. It's about choice. About choosing love over fear, connection over comfort, courage over convenience. My dad says kindness is like energy. It can't be created or destroyed, only transferred. But I think it multiplies. One act becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes infinite. What began with one question from a 6-year-old became a lifetime of love. So here's my challenge. Ask the question, see the need, take the action. Be someone's Christmas Eve miracle." The applause thundered through the auditorium. Daniel couldn't see through his tears, but he felt Melissa's fingers tighten around his and Oliver lean against his side. Afterward, as cameras flashed, Melissa laughed, capturing every moment. Daniel looked at her and whispered, "Catherine would have loved this." "She would have loved us," Melissa said softly. Later that evening, gathered around the same dining table that had once hosted soup and grilled cheese, Oliver raised his glass of sparkling cider. "To the girl who asked the question," he said solemnly. "To the dad who said yes. To my mom who was brave enough to accept help. And to Christmas Eve miracles that last forever." They clinked glasses. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and silent, covering the world in possibility. Inside, 4 people sat surrounded by warmth, not from the fire or the furnace, but from the unbreakable bond forged years ago on a frozen night. Daniel met Grace's eyes. She smiled the same knowing smile she'd worn at 6. "Best decision ever, right, Dad?" "The best," he said, voice thick. Somewhere, he was certain Catherine was smiling too, because this messy, beautiful, unexpected family was exactly what love looks like. Not perfect, not planned, but absolutely, undeniably real. And every Christmas Eve when the wind howls through Minneapolis, the Foster Hartley family remembers, the true miracle of Christmas isn't the lights or the gifts. It asks the courage to look at a stranger and say the most powerful words in any language, "Come home with us."